All right, Brandon Lee Gowton, the Bleeding Green Nation, joins us right now as the Eagles and the Falcons. Monday Night Football, BLG. What is up, dude?
How's it going? Excited.
Yes. So, AJ, was this something that happened in practice? I was not expecting. I saw the designation of questionable, and I'm like, all right, that's weird, but I didn't even really phase me past that. Then on Saturday, he's out for the game. What happened? What's the injury? Where does it stand?
Yeah, those are always the most annoying injuries, I would say, when you're just going into the week thinking, okay, everything looks good here. Really nothing to be maybe super concerned about. That Falcons team, the way they looked in week one, and all of a sudden pops up on the injury report. Apparently he was having hamstring tightness, and then all of a sudden listed as limited on Friday. Doesn't practice at all on Saturday, even though Nick Sirianni kind of suggested that he might try to get some work in. And then he apparently tried to give it a go in Sunday's walkthrough, and apparently wasn't good enough. And now he's just out, and that's not great.
No, it's not great because Johnny Wilson, who I don't know if you could have counted on him to come in and take some of the workload. He's a rookie. He's questionable. So he has a hamstring injury. So now you have DeVonta, Jahan Dotson, Britton Covey, and then I guess they're bringing up Paris Campbell. One of the things I remember talking about, I'm sure you did as well, BLG, is the depth at wide receiver. And you're fine if everybody stays healthy. But if there's an injury, you're really testing your depth. And this is kind of the first test for the Eagles wide receiver. How do you feel about the receivers coming into tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, they only have 3 on the 53-man roster. Like you said, Johnny Wilson doesn't even play. So not amazing. And this is exactly why you make the Jahan Dotson trade. And I'm really curious to see how that goes, like, because he only got here, I think he's had like 8 practices now or so since he joined the team. And I think that's crucial when it comes to Jalen Hurts having trust in receivers to even being willing to target them. We only saw Dotson get that one target where it was almost the pick 6 on like that check down, weird forced play from Jalen Hurts in week 1. So Dotson has talent, but I'm totally wondering if the trust is there. Obviously, we've seen DeVonta absolutely go off, and the only other time that A.J. Brown has missed a game for the Eagles since they got him, yeah, that was the Bucs playoff game. DeVonta was like stellar in that game. I expect him to be pretty good again as the number 1 guy. But behind him, you have a guy in Dotson who I'm not sure if Hurts is comfortable with, Britton Covey, who, I think he kind of maxes out as a possession receiver at most. And then I guess they're going to bump up Paris Campbell, a guy who, clearly wasn't compelling enough to be on the roster. So it should be enough to get by when you still have also Saquon Barkley and Dallas Goedert here, and you're playing a Falcons team that only got in the end zone once last week. But it doesn't make you feel amazing.
Makes you thin on the outside with the receivers. Covey wants to work in the slot. I think Paris Campbell really is best in the slot. They like to use Dallas Goedert in the slot. So Johnny Wilson would at least be valuable. At least you could put him on the outside a little bit. DeVonta, they like to put DeVonta in the slot too. So and this is where we talked a lot about Kellen Moore coming in the offseason. This is one of these games where it's like, all right, man, you still have plenty of weapons on offense. Like, let's make this work. Especially after last week, you would think that if you're the defensive coordinator of the Falcons, you're saying like, all right, we need to eliminate 2 players now, except for 3. Having the big 3 makes it so difficult. This really takes the pressure off of Atlanta. Really does.
It does, yeah. I mean, I think it's just going to be interesting to see if they have a AJ Terrell or if they shadow DeVonta and just try to be like, make someone else beat us. And I think that's exactly what they're going to try to do. I think they're going to try to make Jahan Dotson have an amazing game. And again, he has talent. Still know that Hurts feels totally on the same page with him and comfortable with him. The way that when anything is going wrong, typically with the offense, A.J. Brown is just there to be reliable, to make a huge play, to get that key first down. Like Jalen Hurts doesn't have to think twice. A.J. Brown's always going to be there. So to not have that big safety blanket really is concerning. And I think it's going to be a game where they're going to have to ride Saquon hard once again, just like they did in week 1. And why go away from that when it's working so well? Obviously, over the course of the 17-game season, you probably can't do that literally every single game. But early on in the year, and he's looking this good, I would just give him the ball 25 times again.
I was surprised he got 24 carries in the opener. total touches around that, or maybe 20 total touches. I was just surprised they used them as much as they did. And I agree with you. You got to do it again. You got to do it again. This team's at its best when it can run the football with running backs, not just with Jalen Hurts. So I still feel good about the offense. I'm worried about the defense. And I think it's as simple as this, Brandon, that if you pressure Kirk Cousins tonight, you're going to win the game. If you can't get pressure on Kirk Cousins consistently, you could be in trouble. And I worry about the defensive ends, especially after what we've seen with the production from the defensive ends. The interior of the line, I'm not going to bitch about today. What's Bryce Huff? So like this game, in my opinion, is going to be a Vic Fangio Eagles defense game. If you give Kirk Cousins time and you don't pressure him, they'll lose the game tonight, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, Cousins did not look like he could even play like functional last week.
Yeah, he's terrible.
In terms of formations usage, that they just were not doing at any point in Kirk Cousins' career before, and that would point to the fact that it seems like Cousins, they're saying he's healthy enough to play, but apparently he doesn't seem to trust his own kind of body yet, and I think that's kind of what we're seeing out there. So yeah, I mean, if they get torched by, again, this offense that looked so inept at home last week, I mean, that's really troubling. And the pass rush, yeah, is key. Like, I don't think we really learned a lot about the Eagles pass rush in week one. I'm not going to say that everything is fine and no one has to panic at all. I'm just saying that on that field, I don't think it's truly the best judge. The Packers weren't rushing the passer great either on their end. So I'm kind of willing to give them a bit of a mulligan on that one. But this is where we find out for real. Like, okay, can Bryce Huff, who played the fourth most snaps of any Eagles edge rusher last week, actually do anything here? I mean, he better. He was their top free agent signing. They signed him before Saquon. They gave him like the 17th highest valuable edge contract in the NFL, like almost top 15 edge money. He can't be playing that few snaps and having no impact basically on the game. This pass rush, like if they're going to be for real, like tonight is the night where they show that they are.
Howie bet big on Huff. He did. Now, it's not a long-term contract. Really, it could be a 2-year contract, and if he sucks, they can cut him. But still, you need to replace Hassan Reddick's production. Hassan Reddick was one of the best edge rushers in the NFL with 2 years in Philadelphia. Got to replace it. This team is always better, and this is obviously the story around the NFL, when they're getting pressure on the quarterback. Now, if I'm the Falcons tonight on offense, I use Bijan Robinson and Algier, and I run at the ends. I don't need Kirk Cousins throwing the ball. If Kirk Cousins throws the ball 40 times, they lose because they're going to be playing from behind. And Falcons defense is pretty good, but Bijan or bust, you may remember. Some people were on board with drafting Bijan Robinson, Brandon Lee Gowton. It didn't happen. The Falcons overdrafted him. He hasn't been great so far. It wasn't great in week one, but I give a heavy dose of Bijan in the running game, and I run right at the ends this week or tonight.
Yeah. If I'm the Falcons, I think there's two main things I'm trying to do on offense. That's number one, is run the ball, specifically with Bijan, over and over and over again, and try to have him carry the offense, get him involved in the passing game. He can obviously do that as well. That's obvious. The other thing is, if they are passing, really interested to see what the Eagles do with their nickel cornerback situation, given that we saw Avonte Maddox get picked on last week. Now Isaiah Rodgers is back healthy, so are they going to do the configuration where they put Quinyon Mitchell inside? Is Cooper DeJean going to be more involved? We don't know yet, but if it's Maddox still out there, if they don't change it up, I mean, you have Kyle Pitts, you're the Falcons. You could look to work. You have Drake London, who can put inside there as well. If you're going to be looking for a mismatch, it would be that size mismatch in there. So I'm looking to definitely, if I'm the Falcons, run the ball a ton and then try to exploit Avonte Maddox with just the size mismatch, if that's something the Eagles are going to present to you.
Brandon Lee Gowton, Bleeding Green Nation, your reaction after week one with Jalen Hurts' performance. I've heard a lot of people say, and you look at the tape, and A.J. Brown slipped. I still don't like. He was wide open, but still, these D-backs closing quickly on those balls, and he didn't exactly throw a rocket to him. I thought it was a bad decision because the play before almost was a pick six. I don't like the bad decision making. The bad decision making in week one. I'm not going to harp on it, but your reaction to how Jalen Hurts played, and is it on your radar at all? Like, man, what the hell was that? To where now you're a little like the worry meter on Hurts for this season, has it changed for you?
I think dating back to week one of last season, he has like 23 giveaways in 19 games. I mean, that's just way too many. I think he had like 9 in the 18 games from before that in 2022. Like that number just has to go down. I think some of it's been bad luck over this big sample, but I mean, not all of it, and certainly not last week. And that second interception that you brought up, like that really bothered me, just from the standpoint of he almost throws a pick six on the play before. You would think he's especially like, hey, don't do that again. Don't make another mistake right now. And yeah, I know AJ slipped, but and also Jair Alexander like peeled off Alexander. He peeled off his guy that he was covering there. But guess who his guy was? It was Jahan Dotson, who Jalen Hurts had only thrown to the one time in the whole game. Was Alexander really worried that he was going to throw it to Dotson again when he wasn't even utilizing him at all? Like so, and it just wasn't the time to make a play. It wasn't the time to force it. It wasn't like fourth down, trailing, gotta have it.
No.
That's what is concerned. That's what is concerning to me. Like the lack of game situation awareness there, where hey, if the worst case scenario here is I just throw it incomplete and we kick a field goal and we go up 8 points, that's not too bad. That's not terrible. The one thing you can't do is turn the ball over there. So Jalen has seemingly done a good job of like beating up on himself a little bit, at least, in the media, like taking accountability for that.
Sure.
So I'm willing, and I saw him in training camp look great and not make those dumb decisions really at all. So I'm willing to say that I think that could be a blip on the radar and he can take a step in the right direction. And I think he's going to do that tonight by not turning the ball over. But if it's more of the same, then I'm just, it's kind of like, okay, maybe this is just who he is.
We'll see. Yeah, his training camp red jersey in the Hall of Fame for the consecutive interception-less streak this past training camp. So yeah, it was. Where were you when that streak ended? All right, Brandon Lee Gowton, prediction tonight. What do you got?
The AJ thing takes a little wind out of the sails, but I still think that this Eagles team is pretty good. They're coming off of more rest. Obviously, they had to travel back, but they played on the Friday where the Falcons played last weekend. It's Nick Foles night. The link, tiring. Crowd's going to be juiced. It's the true home opener. I think all the X factors are kind of working in the Eagles' favor here. I watched that Falcons Steelers game last week. Was just not impressed with that Atlanta team really much at all. I know their defense played well, but that Steelers offense literally didn't even try to throw a pass over the middle of the field. And they're also using Najee Harris 20 times, where Jaylen Warren gets 2 carries, and Jaylen Warren is clearly the better running back of those 2 players. So I think the Eagles are going to have a better game plan and approach. And ultimately, I'm going to take the Eagles to win here. I'm going to go 27-17.